ortheses.
Buonasera a tutti. Ringrazio Flora che mi ha invitato a parlare qui con voi e ringrazio voi intanto per aver portato pazienza con la mia collega e di portarne anche con me ascoltandomi.
Szép jó napot kívánok mindannyiuknak! Szeretném megköszönni Flórának, hogy meghívott engem erre a rendezvényre, és szeretném önöknek is megköszönni a türelmet, azt, hogy elviselték az előttem szóló kollégámat, és hogy velem maradnak még itt a további, az ebéd előtti néhány percben.
Allora, 25 anni fa ero alto, magro, bello e con tanti capelli.
Olyan 25 évvel ezelőtt magas voltam, dús hajamat fújta a szél.
Okay, so I was a young man 25 years ago. But over the past 25 years, since I've been working with Chiara, I lost some of my hair, I've gotten fat, and I atrophied somewhat. Of course, I also need to say on a more serious note that in the past 25 years we've been working seriously.
Oggi sono qua a presentarvi l'ultimo progetto che abbiamo realizzato in questi bambini affetti da SMA, cioè il passaggio, grazie ai farmaci, da una posizione statica a un'attività più dinamica.
So in this short presentation, basically I want to speak about the advances in SMA, especially with children, because thanks to pharmaceutical solutions, we have been able to move from a fixed position to facilitating actual movement of these children. So basically, this project, Smart Walk, is something I want to speak about to you. Over the past several years, major changes have taken place in the field of SMA, especially in the lives of children with SMA, thanks to a lot of pharmaceutical developments. Thanks to these drugs, we have been able to notice that we now have a lot more possibilities for these children than before. So the question is, how do we respond to that in terms of the orthosis solutions that we offer to them? We need to react to changes in other fields.
Da una situazione statica e che fosse di educazione al sistema e al cammino.
Nos, tehát arra jutottunk, hogy egy olyan rendszer.
So we decided that we have to set up a system that allows a move from the static activity to more dynamic activity. So just to help kids to take their first steps.
Tutore che già questi bambini avevano e conoscevano molto bene, che è l'osmalera.
Nos, ehhez alapul vettük
So we decided to use the basic orthoses that people, young children, well, we're already using and familiar with. This is our Smalera product.
In un letto fino a qualche tempo fa, 2 o 3 anni fa, eravamo riusciti a metterli in piedi. Oggi vogliamo che camminino.
Ennek a rendszernek.
This system, Smalera, ensures that as a result of 25 years of development, children who used to be just lying down in a bed, unable to do anything, now they can actually stand on their own feet. And the next step is we want to make them able to actually take their first few steps on their own.
Al ginocchio.
A smáli
These Smalera products support the hip, the knees, and the ankles, allowing for SMA children to actually stand.
Stesso o poter far stare seduto o in piedi il paziente.
Ugyanakkor hangsúlyoznom kell, hogy ennek az állítónak
Now, this only allows children to actually stand because all they get is a support in their various joints. So they could stand, but they were not able to move. Were not able to actually walk.
Che noi classifichiamo 2 davanti e 2 dietro, cioè a livello del diaframma e a livello della curva della lombare, quindi della lordosi lombare, dietro.
ez egy, itt amit
Now, what you see on the photo right here is a classic solution that supports the child at the hip. There are 2 support points in the front and in the back, only allowing the child to stand up erect, but not to walk.
Cioè avevano familiarità con questo e riuscivano a stare in piedi molto tranquillamente.
úgy döntöttünk tehát, hogy ezt vesszük alapul,
So we decided to take this as our starting point and then improve it, develop it further to allow actual movement. So children were familiar with this product. They were tolerating it well. They were able to keep standing, stay erect for relatively longer periods of time.
A tutore dinamico.
a kutatásunk
So at the beginning of our research, we wanted to take this orthosis, build on its advantages, but mobilize it in the sense that we should somehow convert this static approach into active movement.
Stilizzazione dinamica del piede nel tutore. Abbiamo aggiunto i tiranti elastici posteriori, antigravitari rispetto agli orthoses. Abbiamo implementato il body flex e aggiunto un deambulatore posteriore.
Nos, tehát az eredeti modell
So, taking the original model, we decided to add support for additional joints in the body, which is an addition of features, and we support the thigh joint, the hip joint, the ankle joints, the middle foot bones. We're dynamically supporting the top part of the head of the foot. We're using elastic straps to provide for more movement, and also integrated a sort of a corset into the unit with some back support, which is built into the brace.
L'articolazione coxofemorale che già esisteva nel tutore prima, abbiamo sfruttato la stessa articolazione perché è leggera e poco ingombrante, ma abbiamo dato una libertà in flessione di 10-15 gradi.
Ugye itt
Now, in the case of this joint, the coxofemoral joint, this is something that was already part of the original design, which is only static, but now we added 10 to 15 degrees of potential movement, flexion, and extension in the improved smart walk orthosis.
E dopo diverse prove fatte abbiamo scelto di applicare le articolazioni che conoscete tutti, che sono le Tamarac, perché fatte in un materiale elastico.
ezt követően
Now, at this point, we decided to support not only the ankle, but also And we used a material called tamarak, which is a high flexibility material that supports the heel grip, that has a heel grip, supports the vault of the foot, and provides metatarsal support as well.
Camminare il tutore stesso.
Fontosnak találtuk a láb dinamikus
And we thought that it is important to provide dynamic support for the foot. This photo doesn't show you much about the basic concept, but once the child starts to walk, it is important that the foot itself is supported in a dynamic way and not only in a static, fixed way. So what is the main difference between the original static and the new dynamic orthoses? Not only is the new product more dynamic, we also made sure that some measurements are made much more accurately. We have to provide a much better fit in the locations that we support under a dynamic load, like the heel, for example.
Primo metatarso e un sostegno sotto alle altre 4 dita.
Nancy Hiltonhoz hasonlóan oldott.
Now, we use the similar support to Nancy Hilton's solution. This allows, it basically unloads the metatarsal region and just generally facilitate the movement of the foot.
Body inflexa, cioè abbiamo messo un tutore in elasto compressivo per aumentare la libertà di movimento sul tronco.
További újdonság volt az,
Another novelty was that we decided to support the back with a flexible solution. This is called a flexibody, which allows the upper body to move. We're not restraining it, rather we're providing it some support in a dynamic range of movement.
Avere dei pazienti dove il controllo del tronco non è ancora perfetto e va sostenuto.
ugyanakkor elengedhetetlen.
At the same time, it was very important to provide as much support to the back as possible, because in the case of many children, the musculature of the upper body is just not enough for them to move, for them to support themselves.
Il pendolo laterale.
Ugyanakkor egy olyan
But then we needed a solution that would not restrain the child when they finally start moving. The body has to move laterally to some degree for children to be able to walk.
Queste qua sono dei tenditori elastici che vanno a fare un effetto antagonista all'iliopsoas.
Itt most hátulról.
If you take a look at this unit from the back, this is the Smart Walk brace kit that allows children to take their first steps. There's a black part, which is a flexible, elastic part, creating a link between the pelvic grip and the thigh straps. And it provides traction antagonistic to the action of the iliopsoas muscles, and consequently, it helps hip movement. We also should remember that our patients, these children, suffer from muscle atrophy. That's their fundamental problem. And the muscles that are otherwise responsible for taking their first steps are just not strong enough. So those muscles need support.
Consegnato a questi ragazzi dei deambulatori con presa posteriore.
Illetve ezeknek
So to help these kids, we also developed a product that allows them to walk. You can see this posterior support walker on the image. They can walk with their own muscle power, but it still gives them not only a hand grip, but also back support.
Presa posteriore, io sto in equilibrio e mi trascino il carrello.
Alapvetően van egy óriási különbség abban, hogy egy ilyen
So there is a major difference in how a walker is loaded. Is it supporting your body load, your body weight frontally, or from the back with a posterior support idea? In this case, the weight of the body is in the back. It's the support the child gets is from the back, and that allows them to take steps and advance towards what's in front of them.
Stazione retta per poter trovare l'equilibrio laterale.
Ugye ezeknek a srácoknak nagyon fontos az,
It's important for these kids to be able to not only walk forward, but also to swing right and left laterally. Of course, if they support themselves in front of themselves, then swinging laterally, right to left, left to right, will not really be possible for them. So here's a photo of a child with a smart walker, which provides flexible support for the kid. Of course, not every child with SMA is able to benefit from this improved smart walk unit. Unfortunately, we've had to come up with a set of criteria that we can use to decide which child is a hopeful user and which kids have really no chance of benefiting from this solution. One of the basic conditions is that kids must have enough movement, enough range of movement in the tibiotarsal, the knee, and the coxofemoral joints. They cannot have too much of a severe non-reducible scoliotic curve. And also, we need a good degree of trunk, shoulder, and heel control for kids to benefit from this system. So users who already own and use either the Dubovitz or the Smalera type orthoses have a chance to benefit from this new model, especially if they have already learned how to stand. It's important that these kids shouldn't be heavier than 30 kilos, roughly. And it's also important that they should be under some sort of drug therapy that helps their overall muscle condition. And of course, another thing is that they must have good cognitive abilities, and that they should be mentally completely fit and healthy in order to be able to benefit from the system.
Più possibilità di movimento e autonomia.
Mindezen kritériumok tükrében még inkább
So In the context of all those criteria, you realize how important it is to start developing these children's abilities, both cognitively and in the motor sense, at a very early age on, in order to achieve the situation where not only do they stand, but they can also start taking their first independent steps.
A questi bambini che all'interno dello smalera avevano dei punti di riferimento ben precisi, noi glieli abbiamo tolti tutti.
Ugyanakkor ugye ez az új
At the same time, this new product, which allows walking to be part of the lives of these children, also presented a challenge to them, because before, when they only used the unit that only allowed them to stand erect but not move, well, they had a set of reference points for their own control of their standing, at least. And now, when we provide them with a system that allows them to move, all of a sudden they lose all these reference points. And it is a major challenge. It was a major challenge for these kids to learn how to find their balance, how to be able to balance their bodies while they move, which was completely new to them, and which was something that had to happen without the points of reference that they were used to.
Trascurata, quanto era importante l'articolazione della tibiotarsica in questo progetto.
So that was the point when we realized that the metatarsal joints play a major role. We didn't really realize that before. So we learned that those bones, those joints are extremely important in actually establishing a balance for children as they start walking. And for developers like ourselves, the biggest challenge was to somehow ensure that the plastic, which is rigid enough to be able to support them, is flexible enough to follow the flexibility of the joints. And those are definitely two requirements that go against one another, and you have to find some sort of a balance.
Elastici possibili per dare questa motilità alla caviglia.
Éppen ezért
So that was the reason why we decided to focus on the joints that play a core role in establishing balance in a dynamic way. And that also meant that we had to look for a material that is rigid enough, but also at the same time flexible enough, provides support, but allows movement. And I think that this learning curve, this period of time that these children learn how to use the new system that allows them to balance themselves, but also to walk, it's crucial. It is important to allow them ample time to adjust when they switch from the old unit to the new one. I wanted to show you a video, but it doesn't seem to be functioning. But let's move on to the functional assessments of this new product. Now, like I said, the biggest, the most complex challenge for these children was to learn a completely new motor pattern that enables them to produce autonomous advancement and movement as compared to just passively standing, like what they did with the previous edition of the product.
Con le mani bilanciandosi sul deambulatore e alzare quell'altra. Siccome la retrazione o la tensione dello psoas è maggiore dei glutei, di conseguenza la gamba avanzava.
Ugye itt nekik meg kell
they basically had to learn how to actually lose their balance in order to lift one of their feet so they can actually take a step. That's an imbalance laterally, and that's an imbalance frontally because they lift one of their legs, extremities off of the ground.
È un contenimento che non lo bloccava, ma gli permetteva queste torsioni e rotazioni laterali.
Ebből a szempontból volt
In this context, like I said, the flexible corset that I mentioned was of extreme importance. It allowed the upper body to move laterally, which is absolutely important. It's crucial if you want to allow them to actually lift up one of their legs.
Tanto perché non parte neanche un video.
roppant mód sajnálom, de úgy tűnik, hogy itt a
I am really sorry that I cannot show you the video, but they don't seem to be running. I apologize for the technical issues. It possibly would have been the most interesting part of the video for you to see what we're really talking about.
Non riusciamo a farli partire?
Nem tudom, esetleg a technikus kollégák tudnak nekünk segíteni abban, hogy ez a videó valamilyen módon életre kell.
I don't know if you have any technician that could help us play this video. I guess somebody's coming up.
Ci proviamo. Non so come si fa io però, come devo fare?
Elnézést kérünk, egy másodperc türelem. Úgy tűnik, hogy
We apologize. There seems to be a solution, but we have to take some time to actually log on to the presenters' internet sources before we can play the video. Thank you for your understanding.
Ok, perfetto. Abbiamo risolto tutto, i video non ci sono, va bene.
Szóval mindent megoldottunk, de ennek
Okay, so we solved all the problems except we still can't play the video. I apologize. That's my mistake. I'm sorry. I'm really good at castings and plaster, but I'm not so good with this type of technology. So let me just act out what you could see on the video.
E il loro movimento è tenendosi sulle braccia. Lo sbilanciamento laterale, come fanno questo, la gamba avanza e dopo devono avere il coraggio di cadere sulla gamba.
Nos tehát
So basically, the movement that children need to learn and execute is that they support themselves on this walker with their arms. They lean back, as a result of which one of their feet lifts off of the ground, and then they have to be brave enough to actually fall forward, jump into the unknown, basically, until they place their weight on the foot that they just lifted off the ground, and then they step on it. So initially, the hip joint and the thigh only moves in a very low degree, and initially the step will be very, very small. But as time passes and as they practice, the range of movement of the joint will grow, and the kids can take longer and longer steps. Now, children who use this improved project have been, of course, evaluated for their learning and for their performance, their freedom of movement, stability, and so on. And what we've seen is that after the initial challenges, these kids really learned to love this new brace, this new support, because they learned to take longer and longer steps. They became more confident and they became enthusiastic about learning how to walk. And of course, when kids are happy and satisfied, that's a strong enough motivation for us to say, okay, the project has been successful.
Inizio, cioè, siccome per ottenere i miglioramenti che abbiamo descritto c'è bisogno di un lungo lavoro sia nella prova che nella consegna del tutore.
szeretném azonban
At the same time, I would like to emphasize that we shouldn't just lounge into using this device just because we think it will be solving all our problems. No, it's something that we have to use in a very considerate way. We have to understand that it takes time, effort, and exercise to reach even the first initial results.
Sembra che il tutore non funzioni.
ne felejtjük el azt, hogy amikor készítjük ezt a
So when we manufacture the unit for a specific kid, it takes hours and hours to measure every part of their body. It could be 4 to 5 days, hours. Very often their personal physiotherapist is not a part of the process, so they cannot help. And by the end of this 5 hour initial customization and measurement process, they are really tired. And I'm just mentioning that because I want to illustrate that this is a tool, a device, a medical instrument, a medical device that requires a lot of commitment, both from the child and from the professionals who help the children learn how to use this device.
Cominciano a fare I loro passi e accelerano sempre di più la velocità del cammino.
Illetve nagyon fontos azt is
It is also very important to keep in mind that this is a device that will generate results over time. It might take weeks before the child takes the first steps, but at the same time, there has been no situation that a kid with a new brace like this did not start moving, did not start taking steps. So after a few initial weeks or months, the results have come in every single case that we applied this new type of improved brace.
Eddig ugye arról beszéltem önöknek, azt osztottam meg önökkel, hogy mit tettünk eddig, mi az, amin eddig dolgoztunk. Most arról szeretnénk beszélni, hogy
Now, I have covered what you have been doing so far, but I would also like to speak about what we're working on, because just having reached these results have not stopped us from wanting to work more towards better future solutions. And basically, we're planning to create an exoskeleton. Just 15 days ago, one of our patients who was not an SMA patient was provided with an exoskeleton device.
Quando lo vuole lui.
And this is basically an exoskeletal brace device in which the child can actually independently decide when they want to walk and when they do not want to walk.
No, al momento una grande leggerezza e flessibilità.
Currently, we're experimenting with 3D printing devices, braces of this type. 3D printing has the advantage that these devices are very flexible and also very light.
Presentare due immagini, una è quel signore che purtroppo è morto, non so se lo conoscete, ma si chiamava Enzo Ferrari.
Végezetül pedig két képpel szeretnék.
And finally, I would like to give you just two images. The gentleman on the screen is Enzo Ferrari. I'm sure you have heard about him. He was extremely committed and hard-headed, basically, to build a car manufacturing enterprise that you must have heard about, I'm sure. And when he was 80, a journalist tricked him by asking which was your biggest victory in your life of 80 years. And he said, the one that's still ahead of me. So the next photo is a photo of my staff. So is the team I manage, the team of people who work tirelessly day after day, thinking about brand new solutions. And I'm sure that if you ask them which one has been their best product so far in terms of medical devices, they would answer the ones we'll make tomorrow. Thank you very much for your patience and attention.